For anyone located in South Bend, I hope you're enjoying the snow. Donna and Andre, we've just been absolutely dumped and it's continuing behind me.
I'm sorry, we have a dusting here in Indianapolis, but not dumped.
It continues steadily. I see Antonia's made it into the office, but I'm glad this was virtual from the start. Great. I think we can.
Wouldn't want to make that drive this morning, that's for sure.
Absolutely not. We'll talk about how we plan for weather contingencies in this program in case we need to do that. Great. Well, let's get started. Want to respect everybody's time this morning, and because this is recorded, other folks will have a chance to see this webinar later. So I'll begin just by introducing myself very briefly. My name is Evelyn Bauman. I'm the Director of Sustainability with the City of South Bend in the Office of Sustainability. Thank you all so much for joining us this morning to learn more about the Energy Assistance and Solar Savings Initiative. So again, as people join, we'll ask them just to type their name in the chat, their organization, so we get a sense of who is here. And want to flag for you again that this webinar is being recorded, so it will be available later to view if there's anything that you missed. But most importantly, we will have a Q&A session at the end of our time together today. So please feel free to put questions in the chat throughout this initial presentation, but then we'll also have a chance to go off mic and have a real discussion about any things that you are curious about the program. Also, we'll ask that you please stay on mute until that Q&A portion, just to make sure that the recording goes smoothly and we can hear everyone well. So I'm going to begin by just providing a quick roadmap of what we'll be covering today during this webinar. So I'll start by just giving a very high-level overview of the program, what we're calling EASY, Energy Assistance and Solar Savings Initiative. We'll introduce our partners to this program. And then my colleague Alex from the Office of Sustainability will be giving a deep dive, step-by-step overview of the EASY process. And then we'll also hear from Andre with IFF about their lending opportunities for nonprofits in this program. And then, as I mentioned, we'll open it up to Q&A. So that's how we'll spend our time today. That portion will go no longer than 30 minutes, but probably even shorter. So we'll have plenty of time for Q&A for you all. Great. So to begin, high-level overview. EASY helps community organizations complete energy efficiency and/or solar projects through subsidized energy assessments. So Donna, you'll hear from later, IFF will be conducting energy assessments for the nonprofits in this program, and the city will be covering that cost entirely. There are also city grants available to nonprofits through this program, as well as optional low interest loans from IFF. In short, we are hoping to make community organizations more resilient so they have more to reinvest in, more resources to reinvest in serving our residents of South Bend. We are also hoping to reduce building emissions and your energy bills. In South Bend's Climate Action Plan that was passed in 2019, we conducted a greenhouse gas inventory before that plan, and we identified that approximately 60%, more than 60% of South Bend's community-wide emissions are due to our built environment and the energy use in buildings too. So we're hoping through this program to start making a dent in those emissions. And then last but not least, we're also hoping to increase awareness about the environment, those emissions, on energy efficiency and renewable energy. So hoping that your organizations will help us spread the word about the benefits of the projects that nonprofits can pursue through this program. So now I'm going to do some partner introductions. I mentioned that my name is Evie, Office of Sustainability with the City of South Bend. My colleague Alex will be talking to you and be a point person in this program. He'll introduce himself at the beginning of the process section in this. And the Office of Sustainability for the city is housed within the Department of Community Investment. And overall, we are charged with implementing the city's climate action plan. So we set forth the goal of becoming carbon neutral by 2050. So we are tasked with helping the organization carry out the goals outlined in that plan, reducing our emissions from energy and transportation. Now I'll pass it over to our partner IFF to give a quick introduction of who they are.
I'll start. I'm Donna Sink. I'm a senior owner's representative with IFF, and I am the person who does the facilities assessments and listens to what your needs are for your building and figures out how to help you with those. Andre, you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you. My name is Andre Gibson. I am the Director of Lending for IFF, covering Indiana and Kentucky. And if there are lending needs that need to go along with this particular program, I would be the point person for any of the lending needs if you are going through IFF for any of those needs. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for having me.
Thank you. And last but not least, I'll pass over to Sam.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Sam Syntheus with CDFI Friendly South Bend, and we're here to help facilitate the process, and glad to have be working here with the city and with a great CDFI partner to help bring resources to our community for community development and improvement. So glad to be here to help, and also just serve as a resource for other nonprofits as a nonprofit executive here in the area to give feedback and input. But glad to have everybody here.
Thank you. And now I'll pass it over to my colleague Alex to introduce himself and then walk us through the EASY program.
Good morning. My name is Alex Bazan. I'm the Sustainability Project Manager for the City of South Bend's Office of Sustainability. If you apply to this program, I'll be working with you from the intake form all the way through project completion. So eligible organizations, these include nonprofits, schools, nonprofit early childhood education, centers, public libraries, medical facilities, grocery stores, places of worship. In addition, your facility must be within the city limits of South Bend, and you must own the facility or you must get permission from the property owner. Next slide. So these are some examples of eligible projects that are supported through this program. Solar panel installation, HVAC replacements, so your heating and cooling, Energy Star appliance upgrades, lighting upgrades, water heater upgrade, air duct sealing, insulation, weatherization, and window replacement. And you don't need to know in advance what eligible projects or what projects you'd like to do for your facility. The great part about this program is that we have a free energy assessment, which helps identify and prioritize which projects work best for your facility. Next slide. So there are two cohorts that are part of this program. There's the spring cohort and the fall cohort. And in the intake form to apply to this program, you can indicate whether you want to be part of the spring cohort or the fall cohort, or if you don't have a preference, you can indicate either. I also want to emphasize that if you want to be part of the spring cohort, the deadline to apply is this Friday, January 28th. So if you haven't applied, please apply as soon as possible. We will also be accepting applications on a rolling basis for the fall cohort. Just make sure to apply to that cohort before the deadline on June 3rd. In addition, for the spring cohort, we will be prioritizing applicants that are interested in solar energy for their facility. And the reason behind this is to give those applicants an opportunity to take advantage of the net metering that exists in this state. That net metering policy is slated to expire to end on July 1st. And basically what this policy is if you produce excess solar energy, you're able to sell that energy as a credit to the utility, and that is a full credit. But after July 1st, it'll be a significantly partial credit. So we really want to give folks that want to put solar and want to be part of the spring cohort to take advantage of the net metering policy before it expires July 1st. Next slide. So this is a overview of the program. So you will complete the intake form. We will then follow up with you to review the intake form. We might have some additional follow-up questions for you. We also want to make sure that you will be able to pay your portion of the total project cost. After that, you'll sign a letter of commitment indicating your cooperation with the City of South Bend and its partners, CDFI Friendly South Bend and IFF. You will then provide utility bills and schedule an energy assessment with Donna so she can conduct an on-site energy assessment. And I will pass it off to Donna to talk more about the energy assessment.
Great. So this is, you'll see a sample of this on the EASY website, a sort of sample version of what the assessment will look like. I want to point out the really important and great thing about this opportunity for you all. What we like to say at IFF is that you nonprofits, you know your business, you know what you do really, really well. We know buildings really, really well. So if you have a building and it is taking your time and energy to think about what needs to happen with it, what kind of shape is it in, we are here to help you figure that out. And so even if you're not pursuing solar, even if you're you know, not sure what your next move should be in terms of facilities, this is a building assessment that you do not have to pay for. We will come, we'll study the building, we'll look at all kinds of things. Most importantly for this program, we're looking at the possibility for solar and energy efficiency upgrades. But we'll also notice if you have like a roof problem that seems like you might want to plan for that in your upcoming budget to get it fixed. You know, if you have ADA issues that might make your space not accessible to everyone that you would like to be able to serve. We're here to help you not have to worry about your building so much. We want you to be able to do your good work, and we will take a look at your building and help you figure out if it needs attention, where it needs attention. And then, of course, if you do end up getting some solar and energy efficiency upgrades, that's just going to help your bottom line. So what I do, just to give you a very quick overview, it's a walkthrough. We go into every single building. We look at the roof. We go up on the roof. We go in the basement. We look at the age of all of your energy equipment, your furnaces and things like that. We look at your windows, we look at your doors. We really study the entire building. And so we will give you a good overview of the entire facility, in addition to specifically focusing on what your energy efficiency upgrades might be able to be, or where you might have problems. So there's nothing I love better than talking to people about buildings. So I hope that you will apply it, and I can come out and spend some time with you looking at your facility. Next.
Yeah, so as Donna was mentioning, once the energy assessment is completed, we'll sit down and meet with you and review the energy assessment and provide some guidance in terms of prioritizing the best projects for your facility. I will then connect you with a list of pre-qualified contractors, and we're currently working on a registry of pre-qualified contractors that we will make available. But if you do have a contractor already in mind, you can also go that route and work with that particular contractor. I will also work with you to collect quotes from contractors so that you can get the best offer, the best bang for your buck for the projects that we use for your facility. Once you've selected your contractor and you have your total cost through the agreement with the contractor, we'll work with you to apply for the city grant. As Evie has touched on, this grant is the 50% matching grant with a minimum of $2,500 and capping at a maximum of $10,000. And if you need any additional financing, we can connect you to IFF. And if you have a preferred financial institution, you can also go that route of working with them to provide any additional financing. Next slide. And I think this is for Andre, if you can touch on the IFF Lending.
Sure, thank you, appreciate that. Yeah, so with the lending piece, I just want to kind of go into what the process is and kind of go over a little bit of timeline. From the lending standpoint, these particular loans, if you decide to come to IFF for funds, we treat this as just a regular loan for us. So there's not a simplified step for us to be able to make these loans. So we go through our normal routine. So with that being said, we do have an application. The application will be very detailed. It will help us to be able to determine who you are, what kinds of needs that you have, what projects you're looking at. It breaks all that down in the application. The application is just to be honest, it's a pretty lengthy application. Not everything would apply to every potential borrower, but when you are going through that application, I am more than available to be able to help you complete that, because there are a few sections that you may not know if you need to fill out and complete. I'd be able to help you with that as well. After the application comes, there are a list of items that we would need to collect from you, just like any other lender. We're going to look for at least 2 years of audits. If you don't have audits, your 990s will be sufficient as well. So we're going to be looking for 2 years of some type of financial history and data to be able to pull on. We're going to need your corporate documentation, all those things that you and or your board have helped put together, such as bylaws and things of that nature. We would really love to get with the application a breakdown of the board. We'd love to see who is on your board, how strong your board is, how active your board is, and if there are any, I'm going to use air quotes here, but if there are any experts that can help in this process, we look for that as well. So those are just some of the items that we would need. And then, as you can imagine, each potential loan is a little bit different. So there may be some information that we may need from organization A that we may not need from organization B, and vice versa. So we're looking at those on a case by case basis. The good thing about this particular or these particular loans is I'm going to assume that most of these will be under $350,000. And if that is the case, we do have somewhat of an abbreviated loan process where I will end up doing the loan underwriting and the write-up and be able to present that to a two-person committee. And that two-person committee would then on every Wednesday. So that's another good part of it is this committee meets every Wednesday, that we would be able to assess the loan application and be able to make some determinations right then and there on every Wednesday. So once we get a completed application, we're not waiting weeks and months to be able to give you a determination on if we could execute on a loan product. We will be doing loans from $5,000 all the way up to $6 million. So if you do have one of those extra large projects, we could help you there as well. But I know that's a pretty wide gap. But that $350,000 threshold would be to be able to maybe expedite the process a little bit with that two-person committee versus having to present to the full committee, getting all those votes and things of that nature. So, but again, if you've got something over 350, definitely not a problem. We'll just need to plan accordingly for that. Right now, interest rates are pretty competitive. We're not the best in town. If you do have a relationship with a banker there in town that may be able to give you a little bit better interest rate, I would definitely suggest you do that. Right now, we are at 5.25. We can go up to 15 years, and that's a pretty darn good rate. I'm a former banker myself, so I definitely keep an eye on what the rates are doing, and even up in South Bend, I keep an eye on those rates as well. And 5.25 is not too bad, especially for 15 years. Again, we are looking for those deals that are going to be somewhere between, I'm assuming, 5,000 and upwards of 350. That's kind of going to be our sweet spot for this particular program. Overall time frame, I'm going to call it 60 days. I can think we could probably do a little bit, be a little bit more efficient than a 60-day run, provided that we're able to get information from you on a pretty quick and responsive basis. That would allow me to be able to put a write-up together, get it in front of the committee, and to be able to execute as quickly as we possibly can. So I'm going to call it 60 days, but it definitely could go a lot quicker than that. I guess what I'll do is I'll just kind of stop right there and see if there are any questions there, anything that I can clarify, or anything that I can answer. Or should we wait until the end on that? I don't want to jump ahead. So, Evie, kind of keep me in line here.
Yeah, place your questions for Andre in the chat, and we'll
Okay.
make sure that we get to those first thing once we move into the Q&A portion. And now I think we'll pass it. Thank you, Andre, very much. Back to Alex.
Yeah, thank you, Andre. So just finalizing the overview of the program. So as the projects are being installed, I'll work with you every step of the way. I'll provide some check-ins and just provide any assistance that I can to make sure the project reaches completion. Once the project is complete, IFF will inspect the project and sign off on the project. And then after that, we will seek your feedback regarding the program and how we can improve it, make it better, and then monitor and track the impact of the program so that we can share your story to the community. Next slide. I think this is for Sam.
Excellent. And so a couple things I know as a former nonprofit executive managing a building, what Donna mentioned, right, really resonates in terms of like what we're good at. And so I think one of the things that's great about this program is that IFF is going to bring this experience to nonprofits here locally to help you justify expense. Right? So I remember running a building and figuring out, like, do we want to spend on LED light bulbs or do we not? Where can we best spend the money that we have? And this is before even thinking about the city grant opportunity to get some of the dollars matched. So I want to make sure that organizations locally are taking advantage of applying for this to get this great assessment from IFF to help you know what to do. And then the next thing that worries nonprofits, right, is not just where you spend your money, but will there be help along the way? And so for me and the city and others, helping to make sure you're able to connect with contractors. The one thing we're clear on the page is that, this isn't going to be as complicated as doing like a CDBG job. So this is different. It is going to go through the city, so they'll provide support and in terms of lists and who to work with. But definitely it'll help you justify that you want to do this kind of work because you're going to get support along the way and experience in things that, as a nonprofit executive or a development coordinator or whoever you are in your organization, helping make these decisions, that you get great information to help you drive that decision. So the other one is thinking about the fundraising opportunity here. And so, one of the things that is always interesting for nonprofits, right? You never want to take away money that you could be spending on programmatic things for things that maybe don't have a programmatic outcome, but that this, I think, provides a great opportunity for local organizations to solicit either from current donors you already have who might have a sustainability kind of tug at their heart to give additional dollars, or to attract new donors to your organization who might say like, oh, well, the city's going to give you some, I'll give you some, you could finance the rest. And it's a great way for you to maybe do a bigger project than you would have even thought and make a bigger impact. So I think that's really good. And then the last piece is just the education and awareness. We'd like, every organization to help share and promote this and talk about how important, sustainability is for the future, for the community. Most nonprofits are in the space of thinking about the future, right? Whether you're working with kids or families, we like to think about how we're making the world a better place overall. And so this is how that fits into your mission in some way, regardless of what your organization does. So thanks everybody for joining. I'm excited to be here as a help and resource. For those of you that know me, please shoot me an email too if you've got questions. But I will say that the city's put together an extremely thorough website with lots of information. The other one I'll give as an info, Andre mentioned the application can be lengthy. For all you nonprofits that write grants, you know how to do the application, right? So don't worry about that. We know how to give everything, right? You have that folder on your desktop of all the stuff you shove in a grant application. So don't be scared about the application. Don't let that scare you away from doing the project that you really need for your facility to serve your families and clients best. So don't let that scare you away, because it'll be easy. And Andre is a great guy. He'll help you through that process.
Great. Thank you so much, Sam. And thank you everybody to our presenters today. This is now going to turn us into the Q&A portion. So Alex too just dropped in the chat the link to our website, where if you have to hop now, that's great. You can visit our website and reach out to us with more questions too. We have our emails and phone numbers there. But also now is our time to discuss and chat. So I see one question already in the chat, but please feel free to put more in the chat or come off mute and ask in person. So I see the first question from Kelly is why a signed letter of commitment before the assessment? And I'll chime in, and then Donna too, if you have anything you want to share. Why the signed letter is because the city will be covering the cost of the assessment, and we want to make sure that the nonprofit too is interested and has some skin in the game to complete these projects. So the signed letter of commitment will state that you are interested and committed to completing of a project of at least $5,000, because the city's grant minimum threshold will be $2,500. So we really do want to see some impact in terms of the energy reduction and energy cost bills. So we're hoping that we can work with you too through that letter of commitment to say that we're committed to doing a project through this program, and you're also willing to help us help you monitor the impact and communicate that. So anything else to add from anyone else?
No, I think you covered it. I think that the idea here, the idea is that we and as Sam said, we want you all to feel like this is an opportunity to build some momentum around doing not just not just the building work, but the program work that you do. So this is a you know, a $2,500 commitment is something that we hope you could have your board be involved in. You could have your, you know, people who have supported you. It's a way to get yeah, to get some skin in the game, as Evie said, and yeah.
Great. Thanks, Donna. I see another question from Carl. Did I read the website correctly that a total of 10 to 15 projects will be funded in the 2 cohorts? That's correct. We're hoping to help at least 15, well, maximum of 15 organizations through this program. So those organizations could choose to pursue multiple projects. So it might not be capped at 10 to 15 solar or HVAC projects, but 10 to 15 organizations will be served over the course of the 2 cohorts. One other thing that I want to make sure we cover on this webinar, Andre and or Donna, would you touch on we have it mentioned on the website, the restrictions around lending to houses of worship too. So I know that IFF has some rules around that. So we want to be clear that houses of worship and places of worship will be eligible for the facilities assessment and the city portion of the grant, but the IFF lending piece might be a bit more complicated. So if we could touch on that quickly, that would be helpful.
Yeah, thank you. That is correct, just as you stated it. With the building assessments, we would be able to help in that regard from a real estate solution standpoint. Donna and her group would be able to handle that. As it relates to houses of worship, on the lending side, that is not an area in which we do lend into. Now, if the house of worship has maybe spun off and done some other kind of CDC for the community or some other type of nonprofit organization, then we may be able to have that conversation. But where we kind of get hung up is with the house of worship, they're usually counting on tithes and offerings. And that's just something that we just can't get our arms around quite at this point. So yeah, so if it is a house of worship, I would say, please go ahead and bring that opportunity to us. Let's talk about it, see if there's a way for us to maybe mitigate those circumstances and be able to move forward.
Thanks so much, Andre. Reading these questions in the chat, I'm connected with multiple Catholic schools and parishes. Would you prefer that they somehow combine their grant requests, or should they present individual proposals? That's a really good question. I'm going to loop in Donna here too, because we've discussed the possibility that one organization could apply for the program but list multiple facilities. So I think that might be the way to go, of submitting one application and then listing those multiple facilities that could be serviced through the program. And we would talk a bit about how that impacts the energy assessment, the city's grant level threshold too. So I think that might be the way to go, but Donna, curious for your thoughts.
No, I agree. And the time commitment as well, because you know, it's, I've done things from tiny little spaces to full campuses, and we want to make sure that we're not over or under committing in terms of the time it will take to put to give you good information. So I think, Evie, for as you said, it probably makes sense to combine, to do one application, but then we would, on a case-by-case basis, look at which specific facilities we were spending the time on.
Great, thank you. And thanks for that question. I see another question in the chat around South Bend is not known for its sun. Great, great point. Do solar panels store energy for use when it is cloudy? That is a very, very valid question. We have also put together a new website, relatively new last fall, to help answer all of your solar skepticism, perhaps, in South Bend too. So I'll point you to that website, and they still can produce power on cloudy days. It will be less, but that is why we're encouraging folks to put panels on their property, on the roofs, as soon as possible to take advantage of net metering. So on super cloudy days when your panels aren't producing as much, that one-to-one credit that you get for excess energy on super sunny days when you're not in your building or you're not using as much energy as you normally do, you will get that credit. So you'll see it balance out much better through that. So that's why we're saying net metering, especially in a place like South Bend, is really important. But it still is very feasible here, and we are trying to push as much solar as possible in South Bend. So don't let the snow and the super cloudy permacloud detract from its potential. Great. I saw someone was typing, but any more questions too? And again, feel free to come on the mic. And if not too, you have our contact information here. Reach out to us via email, via phone, and other questions too will hopefully be answered by our resources on the website. Great, thank you for this valuable information. Great. No problem. Well, thank you all very much. We will stop the recording here and we'll stay on the line in case anybody has additional things.